Hey there folks. So in this video what we're going to start is actually just a basic introduction to Unreal, so for completely new starters to the software and the game engine that have never used it before. So that's going to include looking around this user interface, understanding what we can see, what we can't see and what we might need, and also just looking at how to move elements around inside our scene. So being able to click on things, being able to move them, and also just being able to navigate around so we can actually create levels, create games, and just know what's going on in here. So the first thing that we're going to have a look at then is the actual user interface of Unreal. So when I load up, let's say I've loaded up a blank project, I might get a completely empty level, or I might have a starter project, so a first, third, or even top-down starter project, even the racing one. They might give you some sample levels to start off with. All I've got here is I've got this polygon prototype pack, so you can see here, polygon prototype. And that's provided by Synty, and I'm just using that as a good starting point to give something visual to fly around and obviously move objects around. It's great to have something there. So the first thing we've got is this thing that you are all looking at right now, which is the viewport. And basically this is where we are going to be making our levels, making our cinematics, putting all of our stuff together to create scenes. Now to fly around that, you've got options. You can use your right mouse button, click it in, and you can see you stay where you are, but you look around. You've also got your left mouse button, which keeps you looking at the angle that you are, but you can move forward and backwards, and you can turn left and right. If you press your left mouse button and right mouse button at the same time, you'll stay where you are in terms of your angle, but you can move up and down, left and right. So imagine these as kind of like moving along a plane. I'm moving along this flat plane here in terms of the height, and I can move around on that. I don't go up and down, whereas left and right mouse button at the same time moves me up and down, but I stay on this flat plane based on the camera's direction. We've also got the mouse wheel, so I can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out, and I can also use it with the mouse button, the middle mouse button, to pan around. Now they all work fine, and they're going to get you around a lot. The other one that's going to be the most common way of actually navigating a scene is using WASD on your keyboard. So press the right mouse button in, and if you use WASD, you can see I can move it in and out, left and right, and just navigating around. You can see how you can use this to focus in on elements, move around a scene. Yeah, now I'm moving quite slow and jittery just to fly around while I'm on camera, but this could be as quick as, flying around this scene. If you're finding that you're actually working in a really, really big open world and you want to zoom out and be able to go, from this side of a level over to that side of a level really quickly, there's a couple of easy ways for navigating with that. The first one is if you know where something is, or if you know how to select it, and I'll show you these options in a moment, you can always select something and press F on your keyboard, and that will focus you in on it. So it's really quick and easy then to go from somewhere and jump over to that thing and focus. You can select things from over here in the outliner, and we'll go through what the outliner is, but it's the same as selecting it in the world and then doing those actions. We've also got this camera speed up in the top right, and the camera speed is obviously how quick this camera's moving. So by default it's set to a 1. I can actually upgrade this to a higher number, and I'm just going to go to 8 for a moment. This might be super quick and easy. There you go, look at that, super quick, but that's great for a big open world to fly around it. But if you have got to go really, really far, just pressing F and focus to jump's great for that. The other one that I like to use is if you're pressing the right mouse button and you're flying around, so you're using your WASD to fly around, you can actually use your middle mouse wheel to change that camera speed as you're going. So you can see here I can speed up and then slow down. And this is really useful because if I'm moving at a really high speed, it's so hard to actually navigate around and be able to say, like, I want to be able to just get under this object or place this banana just right next to here. This is just one click of the keyboard, and that's the massive movement that it does. So sometimes you'll drop it down when you get to actually kind of like fine levels of detail. And now you can see I'm much, much slower, and I can just fly around and have more precision to my movement. Now that stuff's going to come with practice. The more that you actually use the engine, the more you fly around, the more comfortable you'll become with the navigation. And everybody finds their own way. Everybody finds the best way that they prefer to fly around, whether that is actually WSD and flying, or whether that's using the outliner, or selecting things and jumping around and focusing them. We'll have a look in some future videos at other options as well that we've got, such as bookmarking and different views. But for now, that's just our navigation options in the viewport. Okay, so that covers the main viewport and navigating around in it. Let's have a look at the top bar that is above that. We've got the save button. I recommend you use this a lot. This is just going to save the level though. So just be aware that if you are working on anything in your content browser, in your content drawer, I'll come to that soon, you might want to also go to File and Save All. And you can also choose the files to save. And there's a lovely option down here in the bottom where you can see it says all saved, but this will update and change if there is anything that you have edited that hasn't been changed yet. So it will tell you if there are things that need to be saved. We've got this button here, quickly add to the project, that allows us to add a lot of default engine-based things like lights, player starts, and basic shapes. We've got some blueprint options, some sequencer options. They'll come in future videos. And just to point out, we have also got this drop down here. I'm going to leave this at selection for the moment because we're just basically building levels and building scenes. But we will cover these in more detail in future videos. And then the main thing across the whole of this top option here is this play button. This big green button here, we press that, we are now playing the game. Now, I don't have an actual proper character to take control of in here right now. It's just a default empty scene. So Unreal gives me a basic flying pawn that I can just take possession of, and I fly around exactly the same way that I would be flying around if I was in editor mode. But soon enough, we're going to build our own player character. We'll be able to put them in here, and we'll basically be able to play as one of these characters here, third person or even a first person character running around. Just to note, there's a couple of options here that you can do with your play. So we've also got play in editor, which is Pi, and that'll open up a new window for you to play in. You can obviously maximize that. Recommend testing that so that you can see what it looks like when it's the full screen. And then we've also got a simulate option here as well. So you can see we can actually run that where we're not in control of a pawn, but everything in the game is still running. So we can use this for things like physics and testing out what actually goes on when the game starts off. All right, so that's all our top playing options. Over to the right here, we've got the outliner, which we've mentioned a few times, but basically this is a list of everything that is in our scene. This is why I've started with this prototype pack, because it gives me a whole list of things that I can find in here. Now this as a sample level is really, really unorganized, and it would be terrible if you actually had a game level that you were working on that was organized like this, because how would I know where to find any of these elements? So it's worth looking at when you're making this outliner, making it as organized as possible using folders, using good naming conventions, and we can have a look at some options in the future of how we can keep our level itself into some more organized manners. But as we said, you can click on an option and you can press F to focus on it. We can also select things from over here and press F to go to them, which is really useful, obviously, for navigating around. If you know that you've got this area here that you've said this is the building, we can click on it and go straight to that building to edit it. Now, the next bit underneath there is the details panel. We are going to see details panels in pretty much every window that we're going to go in Unreal. If we are in blueprints, it's going to be details and variables and values for the blueprints and the nodes that we're making. If it's in materials, it's going to be for the actual material options. If it's in the static mesh window, we're going to look at all the options for the static mesh. Now, when we're looking at it in the main editor window, it's going to contextualize itself based on what we are clicking on. So here, if I click on this static mesh, you can see this is going to change with the details of that, and then all of the variables that are relevant to that static mesh, or to the fact that that is a static mesh. If I were to select something other than a static mesh, so for example, I'm just going to select a light, you can see now I'm going to get options like for the light, the intensity, the color, and the angle and stuff. Yeah, so it's obviously going to update itself based on whatever you click, and we're going to come over here quite a lot to change options. The last thing I'm going to go through on our interface kind of exploration is down here in the bottom left, this content drawer. Now, if you click on that, it's going to open up the content browser, and this is basically everything that's in our project, not everything that's in the level, but everything that's in the project. So even though, I've got lots and lots of stuff added to the scene, that might not necessarily be everything that I've got in this Polygon prototype pack. So you can see here, I can go and navigate through, and I might have, just this one generic option. Let's say we've got these characters. I've got all these characters, but I can reuse them as many times. So every single one that goes into the level here inside of this viewport, they are an instance, so a version, a copy of one of these that exists here in the actual content drawer. Now, some people like to dock in layout, which basically means that it won't go away. So you can see now, there's my content drawer, and it's stuck there all the time. Some people prefer to use the hotkey, which is if you press Control and space, and you can use that to bring it up and down. And that's really useful because actually the content drawer, if you use Control and Space, will come up in any window that you're in. So just to show you that, I'm just going to go into this skeletal mesh for a sec. So you should be able to see there, I'm in this skeletal mesh, and if I press Control and Space, there's my content drawer. So I can go and find anything relevant as and when I need it. Okay, so that's everything that's in our game. That is everything that is in our scene. If we click on things, these are the variables, values, and attributes that we can change on those elements. This is where we build all of our level, build all of our scene, and here at the top is where we both play and build this to get this running. Now, you might find that as you're going through, you might want additional versions of some of these things. So just a note, up here, if you go into Window, we've got Content Browser, and we can actually have 4 content browsers available to us. We've got more details panels. So if you want to go through, you can make more viewports and lay out your actual layout of your screen however you want. You can click and drag these around, and if you do click and drag these to get them how you want, just note that again in Window, if you go to Load Layout, you can load back to the default editor layout. So don't worry if you're resizing and moving these things around. Don't worry if you accidentally close any of these down. You can just go Load Layout, Default Editor Layout, and that will bring everything back for you. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to access more of my Unreal Engine content.